Presidential debates are just weeks away, and both candidates have their own sets of demands. Trump says he wants to do 4 debates. President Biden says, case closed, he only wants to do 2. The president does not want a live audience. Maybe Biden's seen the polls. But Trump wants Biden, listen to this, to agree to a drug test.
I just want to debate this guy, but, and I'm going to demand a drug test, too, by the way. I am. No, I really am. I don't want him coming in like the State of the Union. He was high as a kite.
Harris, the State of the Union people said, he was at his best. He was full of energy.
That's what some people said. Some people also said that, it wasn't real because otherwise he would be like that all the time. And there are some questions. Look, we tested for coronavirus during the pandemic. I don't really care about testing. If they want to agree to that, that's fine. It's not the presidential debate commission that's on this anyway, setting the rules. It's these 2 men and whatever network they're working with. So I think the first one is on, one of our competitors. And so they'll get together and they'll try to agree. I did find it interesting today, though, or actually it was late yesterday, that Biden's team has said no more debates because there have been all these talks about, well, Telemundo got this through NBC, could we have more? And they said, no, the game is over. And I thought that was fascinating. Like, are we playing a game or are we trying to service the American people with a good debate?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it might be 1, 2 and done. It might be none and done. We really don't know. I can tell you this real quickly. Based on what James Carville and other, people on the left have said out of anger and outrage mostly over how the trial is not going their way, because he said, we've tried everything, which is the quiet part out loud, I suppose. But based on all of that, I'm not certain that there might even be a first debate because I'm sure they were all waiting to see if there'd be a conviction. And had there been a conviction, then Biden could say, well, I'm not going to debate a convict. I mean, he would have an automatic. If it looks like that's not going to happen, and it does at this point, but we don't know. We're just going to cover the news as it happens. Let's see if that first debate happens.
Cheryl, the Biden campaign, there were supposed to be 3 debates. They managed to winnow it down to 2 debates. So in that way, they probably think they have a victory. The White House was asked by Politico about the drug test suggestion. Here's what Andrew Bates said back in part. It's telling that Republican officials are unable to stop announcing how intimidated they remain by the president's State of the Union performance. But after losing every public and private negotiation with President Biden, after seeing him succeed where they failed across the board, it tracks that those same Republican officials mistake confidence for a drug, he said.
I agree with Harris. I really don't care so much about the drug testing issue, but what I found interesting in Politico's reporting, and I'm glad you brought that up, was their talk about, they sourced a bunch of Biden officials off the record, of course, and they said they all agreed on one thing: no audience for this debates, plural. And they say it's because the biggest concern that any audience noise would disadvantage Biden, who sometimes has trouble hearing. Admitted they also wanted to ensure there was a clean tempo and cadence. They wanted no interruption. The mics are going to be cut, etc.
Who decided when to cut the mic?
Well, I guess CNN, right?
I guess CNN.
Molly, CNN said the debate qualifications are meeting a 15% threshold in 4 credible general election polls and being eligible on ballots that could get you to 270. So people thought this would ice out RFK, who the Biden team has signaled was part of the agreement. He's not involved, but CNN says these are the qualifications. RFK says he's going to make that stage.
Well, that could make things very interesting. I think the reason why Biden decided to move out of the Presidential Debate Commission is precisely to ice out RFK Jr. He knew that the standards that they had set up did say that if he met certain qualifications by a certain point in June, he would be allowed in these presidential debates. So Biden was thinking, if I can keep him off the debate stage, because he's very worried about what that will do to his vote total, because RFK, I think a lot of Democrats are looking for options other than President Biden. And not bad for Donald Trump either, because he also has some voters who might be looking for a third option. But if RFK Jr. can get on the stage, that will definitely make things interesting.
Patrick, let me just say, so Trump has been very clear, this is a Democrat we're talking about. First, we saw his abortion comments. Not in any way conservative. We've seen his energy policy, but Biden is going to need to try to do the opposite and frame this guy as not a Democrat. How's he going to do it?
He's going to, RFK Jr., if he gets on the ballot, he's going to take from both these candidates. And this is the bottom, at the end of the day, it's going to be an epic rematch. 4 years ago, we had 2 debates. This year we're going to have 2 debates. It's going to happen. Get your popcorn ready this June and this September because it's going to be a battle.
I have my popcorn
battle.
ready every day.
Yes, yes, we've needed it. It's 2024, peak 2024.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.